So now we get to move on to naming. Naming is one of my favorite things to do because I'm weird like that. So whenever I'm naming, I like to ask myself a series of questions that help me get to how exactly I'm going to name it. So the first question that I ask is, does the compound have a metal? If the compound has a metal, then we're dealing with an ionic bond, right? We talked about this before. An ionic bond is a mix of a metal and a nonmetal. So if we have a metal, then we're an ionic bond. But there's two types of ionic bonds. We haven't talked about this yet. The first one is, the next question you need to ask yourself is, does it contain a transition metal? So remember in our periodic table, right, there we go, the transition metals are the ones that are in there. If it contains a transition metal, we have to name it differently. So if it does contain a transition metal, it's what's called a type 2 binary compound. 2 elements, so 2 pushed together is a binary compound. So if it does contain a transition metal, we're going to name it a little bit differently. If it does not contain a transition metal, so if it has sodium, lithium, aluminum, calcium, magnesium, so on and so forth, then we are a type 1 binary compound. And this is the easiest way to name something. So we'll do a few examples of these in the next video. When you go back to the question is, does it have a metal? And it does not have a metal, that means it's a covalent molecule, and that it's a type 3 binary molecule. So these are things like CO2 and H2O and so on and so forth. So these do not contain a metal, and they're going to have their own system of naming.